What is up, humans? Welcome to the first ever episode of the Animal News. I'm your host, Joey Josselson. You may know me from my other social media channels such as Joey Josselson or Call Me the Lamp. I predominantly deal with lots of different animals, but specifically I deal with a lot of venomous snakes and other assorted reptiles, and I decided I would like to give my opinion on a lot of different animal-related things that come up in the news as someone that may know a little bit more detail or background about the certain situations with animals given my own personal experience. So today we're going to be talking about something really interesting that just popped up all over my newsfeed. Political opposition leader in Russia, Alexei Navalny, was recently shown to have been possibly assassinated by a toxin that can actually be found in a poison dart frog. Authorities were able to do some testing and they came up with the possibility that epibetadine, which is a neurological toxin that's found on the skin of certain species of dart frogs, was in his system. Now, this is a neurotoxin, which means that it targets the respiratory system, the nervous system, and the internal organs of whatever animal it may come into contact with. Now, we deal with a lot of neurotoxic venoms in venomous snakes that I personally deal with and work with, such as snakes like cobras, mambas, and taipans. Now, these toxins are known for being especially dangerous to humans because of what they target. Your other main toxins, like hemotoxins, generally target things like your blood, whereas neurotoxins, like we talked about, will target your internal organs, possibly shutting them down, your respiratory system, so it'll cause respiratory paralysis, meaning you could just suffocate, or just, organ failure could take you out, of course, as always. Now, they're alleging this neurotoxin comes from the Anthony's poison dart frog. I am not going to mispronounce this Latin name, so I'll go ahead and throw it up on screen for you. But this is the species that they are saying this neurotoxin is derived from. Now, for some reason, when I'm going through these news articles and taking a look at what some doctors are saying and some other political sources are saying about it, a lot of them are seeming to believe that this neurotoxin was something that was reproduced in a lab. And obviously, while that may be possible, I don't think that that's a fair guesstimation to make. These poison arrow frogs are actually able to be kept in captivity or imported into captivity, and they do retain their toxic capabilities for up to 2 years. That's the current estimation on a poison dart frog or poison arrow frog's ability to retain their toxic secretions, because these frogs get their toxins from their native diet. So when they come into captivity, or if they are born in captivity, they will lose that toxicity, right? So when they're born in captivity, they will never be toxic unless for some reason you were feeding them their natural diet of ants or whatever they may be eating down in South America. But the ones that are imported from the wild into captivity, which based on where they're found should still be legal, they can retain their toxins for up to 2 years. So I'm not going to say that it's impossible for them to have simply imported some wild frogs, whether it be legally or through illegal exotic animal trade means, because that is obviously a big issue worldwide. But it's definitely within the realm of possibility that this toxin was actually just taken from a wild poison arrow frog. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I think that's absolutely possible. Now, obviously, people are alleging that this is a political assassination because, well, he's a political opponent, obviously, to the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin. And, well, now he's dead under mysterious circumstances. Russia, of course, alleges that he died of natural causes, but testing showing epibetadine in this gentleman's system obviously says otherwise. According to Dr. Eric Franson, he can imagine that these kinds of poisons are interesting to Russia because they are quite difficult to detect. To that I say, no duh, obviously. In fact, these poisons have been used for centuries. It goes back all the way to the natives in the Central and South American regions, using these frog toxins to coat the tips of spears, darts, arrows, whatever it may be, to aid in hunting or just warfare between other opposing tribes and villages. In fact, I believe that they are still used to this day in some remote villages and tribes in these regions. Now, while Russia alleges that Alexei died of natural causes, according to the British Foreign Minister, he makes the incredible claim that these Ecuadorian frogs are not naturally found in Russia. Brilliant. Now, according to a professor of environmental toxicology at the University of Leeds, since the structure is known and it's possible to synthesize in a lab, you would not need to actually go to the middle of nowhere in Ecuador and take a cotton swab to the back of a poisonous frog to get that toxin. He apparently has never heard of the exotic pet trade and that you could probably just get them imported relatively easily, especially if you are the leader of a freaking gigantic country like Russia. It seems to me that everybody is jumping to conclusions when it comes to something like this because a nerve agent, as they say, has not been used in a political assassination in quite some time, and obviously everyone immediately jumps to conclusions when anything political happens. Everyone always thinks it's a deep state secret or crazy intelligence agency operation to make something happen, and they tend to not look at the possible obvious answers. Everything is some governmental conspiracy and some crazy thing that's a state-of-the-art new concoction or a new thing that's being done or made to accomplish a goal, when in reality, it would actually be very simple to obtain this neurotoxin. Hell, I have dozens of different species of venomous snakes 50 feet away from me, and I could easily get some of those toxins and use them accordingly. However, that would be ridiculous, and I'm obviously not going to be doing that. Now, I've brought to you a little bit of background information on the situation, how the toxins react to humans, and how they can possibly be obtained, both through laboratory means or through just natural synthesis by swabbing a freaking frog. I think it's very interesting that this is what happened, though I'm not at all surprised. Toxins like these have been used for centuries, and I don't see them ever stopping. It doesn't really make sense that people would stop using these toxins, as poison dart frogs and poison arrow frogs are so unbelievably toxic. They really do just make a great toxin to be used for assassinations and things of that nature. In fact, I'm sure that they get used all the time, and this is only the most recent big assassination that has been caught. I've long since said that boomslang venom would be the perfect way of completing an assassination due to the way that the venom works and its delayed reaction. So to see these frog toxins being used makes a lot of sense to me. Now, whether or not we can ever find out exactly what happened in this situation remains to be seen, but as it is a large political scale type thing, I don't see any more answers coming anytime soon. I do think it's very interesting to see this happen and hit mainstream media though, as it does bring a little bit of attention to these really interesting amphibians. Let me know what you guys think happened, and if you guys think it's interesting too. Anyways, this has been the first episode of the Animal News, and I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more animals in the news and me discussing things about them, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button, as this is a new channel that I'm testing out. I'll see you all in the next one. Well, if you guys want a next one. If not, I'll probably just delete everything.